Hello and welcome to today's mini lesson. We're going to be looking at the fitness test battery today. What it is, how to complete one, and most importantly, 7 important considerations to make when planning and then completing a fitness test battery. Now by now, we should have a good understanding of what a fitness test is, a set of procedures to follow and to carry out so that a performer or a coach can measure 1 or 2 components of fitness. So the quality of a particular component of fitness. And there's loads of them. Some are better than others, and there's quite a few which can measure the same component of fitness. So it's down to the coach and the performer to pick which fitness test they decide to use because it suits them. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. So a fitness test battery, what is it? Well, it's a collection of fitness tests. It's not just 1 or 2. It's not doing them sporadically. A fitness test battery is a collection of 5, 6, 7. Don't want to go too higher than that or too much higher than that, but not too low either. So it's a collection of 5, 6 or 7 fitness tests that a performer completes on a regular basis. So it's a predetermined regularity, you could say, of completing this selection of fitness tests. And it's usually in line with a training program that they've designed and written up in line with their sport and their own goals. So it's a fitness test and the training program. Okay, they go hand in hand. A fitness test battery without a training program isn't going to be that effective because you lose the benefit of regular assessment of components of fitness. If the training program isn't predetermined and planned and regimented, then we can't expect to see any progress. Therefore, why would we complete regular fitness test batteries? You wouldn't. So it's best practice to have both of them working together. So the battery assesses the progress of the components of fitness that the training program is trying to develop. And these are taking place every couple of weeks in the same way, the same format, the same structure, so that the performer and the coach can then compare what they got in the previous times of doing the battery with what they just got. And that's what we're going to talk about now. So how to complete a fitness test battery. And the first one, or the first word that we are going to look at is reliable. So when completing a fitness test battery, we need to make sure that the fitness tests included are reliable. Okay, they need to be replicatable or replicable, so that if the performer were to complete that test multiple times, either on the same day or a couple of days in between, perhaps with adequate rest, they should be able to get very similar, if not the same, result every single time. Whether it's a sub-maximal test or a maximal test, it shouldn't matter. A test is reliable if the scores or the results or the measurements produced are repeatable. If we can actually replicate and get the same results time and time again. So we need to make sure the tests are reliable. Are the tests relevant? Have the coach and performer sat down and picked out the tests which assess the components of fitness that are actually applicable to them and their sport and the role that they fill in that sport? There's no point in testing a component of fitness and tracking progress if A, the training program isn't trying to improve that component of fitness, and B, if they don't really need it. If it's not an essential part of their sport or their role in their sport, then there's no point in training too heavily for it. Therefore, there's no point wasting time testing it during the fitness test battery. So the tests included need to be reliable. They need to be relevant to the performer, their goals and their training program and their sport. Third one, they need to be valid. Now, validity is often quite difficult to sort of put into words, but it's essentially saying that the test needs to produce a score that actually shows the quality of the components of fitness that was being tested. Okay, I'll say that again. The test or the score that's produced by the performer, that should be correlated with the quality of their components of fitness being assessed. So take, for example, the standing jump. Okay, so try and jump as high as you can and make a mark on a wall, or to flip the measurements over, or we could even use some high-tech camera footage to ascertain the height that they achieved. Now that height is directly related to the explosive power of the performer, especially in their lower body or their legs. The higher they get, the more explosive power is in their legs. However, if we were trying to use that to measure flexibility, it wouldn't really correlate. The higher they get doesn't necessarily determine, or suggest I should say, the flexibility of the performer. So we can't really say that that would be a valid test for flexibility. So the quality of the result is directly linked with the quality of the component of fitness that the performer has had to use in that test. A sprint test, the time it takes from point A to point B. Well, that's speed. Speed equals distance over time. So as long as we can accurately mark out the distance and we can accurately measure the time, we can accurately create a measurement for that person's speed. So validity is the test measuring and producing results for the component of fitness required to complete that test. Fourth one, we have A, which is accurate. Now this is similar in a way to reliable and validity, but what we're talking about here is the results being produced and the equipment being used. Is the tester and the equipment able to produce precise results time and time again in a way that reflects the component of fitness being measured? So accuracy, tester and equipment. Is it calibrated? Is it precise? Is it detailed in the results that it can produce? You know, I would say a sprint test where the tester is counting on their hand isn't very accurate because they haven't got any decimals. However, if they were to use a stopwatch and they can react very quickly to the go sound and the finish time, or when they cross that finish line, that would be more accurate. But speed gains would be even more accurate. As soon as that laser is broken by the performer as they start running, and as soon as that laser is broken at the end when they finish their sprint, that's going to be even more accurate because we're using computing power and we're removing human error. So the accuracy of the fitness test needs to be as high as we can make it, especially when we're dealing with autonomous performers, elite level, where they're probably reaching the top of their learning curve and they're looking for marginal gains. If a coach has got 30 performers to try and pick from and get a team of 10 fielded, well, they're going to need very accurate data to be able to justify their choices. It's in the accuracy that we can start to make these slight comparisons between performers. So reliable, relevant, valid and accurate. L, our next one, is logical. We need to make sure that our fitness test battery follows a logical order. And by this, I mean the level of fatigue that the test induces. And we need to make sure that we order our tests, so the 5, 6 or 7 tests that we're completing in the battery, they go from non-fatiguing, so skin fold caliper tests, height, weight, it could be a single standing jump, for example. So non-fatiguing tests, and then we work through until we get the most fatigue-inducing tests at the end. Aerobic capacity, the multi-stage fitness tests, for example, the sit-up tests, the press-up tests. So we follow a logical order, and we go from non-fatiguing, if I just put NF, down to the fatigue-inducing tests. That way, the performer isn't worn out and they're not tired when it comes to completing the final tests. Another thing to consider here, and this sort of comes back to reliability of the overall battery, we need to make sure that we keep that order the same. If we were to chop and change that order, that slight variation in the fatigue that is inevitably going to occur during the battery, if we switch that order around, then they're going to be slightly different, or they're going to be different fatigue at slightly different levels each time they do each different test. So that could produce different results, different data. That's unreliable. Reliability is the ability to complete the test time and time again, or the battery time and time again, and to get the same or very similar results. To help that, we go in a logical order, non-fatiguing down to the most fatiguing. Number 6, S, we have safe. A nice way to think of this is who, what, when, where and how. Who is involved? Are they educated? Do they know what they're doing? What is involved? The equipment. Is it checked? Is it safe? Is it risk assessed? Does the tester know how to use the equipment? Where? Is the space safe? Is it in line with the procedures of the test? With the standardised rules of the test? Does it need to be on a flat surface? Does it need to be on an incline? Does it need to be on grass? Does it need to be on a treadmill? Does it need to be in water? When? The time of day is very important when it comes to testing to make sure that it's reliable. Are they, or not are they, have they had enough sleep? Are they doing it late in the day and they're now fatigued? Did they train very heavily yesterday, so is their body fatigued from training? Are they currently injured? Have they eaten properly today? Or did they eat too much yesterday, so now they're a little low on energy today because they're still digesting that food? So the when is just as important as the where and the who and the what. And then the how, we need to make sure that the performer is warmed up before they actually complete it, and have they completed a PAR-Q or a participation questionnaire? Has the coach or the tester, have they ensured that this test is applicable and appropriate to the performer? Or have they got some underlying issues, some heart problems, some joint problems, which this fitness test, especially if it's a maximum test, might, create issues with? So who, what, where, when and how. And the last one is our C, which is comparable. A very powerful thing with fitness test battery data is the ability for a performer or coach to compare themselves either with their previous scores, their teammates' previous scores, but also the wider population's scores. And we can use something called normative data. I'll just put normative down there. Normative data, which is basically the average scores that are collected from thousands of trials that have happened previously in lab conditions, in monitored situations where the people testing it know for certain that the tests have been done in the most reliable way, the most accurate way. They've collected that data, they've crunched the numbers, and they've put together what's called a normative data table. So now the performer, if they follow the procedures as closely as they can to make it reliable, to make it accurate, they can get their results and they can now compare that against the scores of all of the thousands of trials that have gone before, and they can look to see if they are below average, average, above average, exceptional, whatever the scale might be. They can compare their quality of performance with, well, arguably everyone else who's ever done that test as well. Very powerful for a performer to see what their strengths and weaknesses are, and for a coach as well, because more on a local scale now, but if they get all of the data from the fitness test batteries, let's say they've got a team or a squad, and they pit one person against another, and they look at their scores, and they know that they've all completed the same fitness tests in the same reliable manner, in the same logical order, and one person is better on paper than the other, then they've achieved number 7. This is now a comparable fitness test battery. And that brings us to the end. The 7 key considerations to make when planning a fitness test battery. This 5, 6 or 7 collection of fitness tests designed with the performer in mind to make sure that it's specific to their sport or their role. And if we can hit these 7 things, reliability, relevance, validity, accuracy, the logical order, the safety and the comparability of that battery, is going to be far more effective for the performer and coach. And that is that. So I hope you found that useful, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.